Coming up today, we're making strawberry jam.
And we're going to plant on our porch, but we're using a rail planter. All that and more coming up today on the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden. Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener is sponsored in part by, for all your non-GMO, organic, and heirloom vegetable, flowers, and herb seeds, visit dollarseed.com. Sioux Growing Supply, located in Wausau, Wisconsin, focusing on certified leaf compost, an excellent amendment for poor soil, retains moisture and adds nutrients, which equals less watering. Available in labor saver pre-filled trays and pots, bag and bulk. Visit SiouxCompost.com. Organic fertilizer for the health-conscious organic home gardener. Family owned and operated. Visit thewiveggardeners.com. Don't poison your soil with municipal water. Attach a body, mind, and soil hose filter. Free shipping exclusively through the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. Just click on the body, mind, and soil icon. Authentic Haven brand soil conditioner for the home gardener. Easy to brew. Visit ManureTea.com. No measuring, no thinking. Stamp it, plant it, stop plotting, start planting. GardenStamp.com.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. I'm Holly Baird. Well, today we are making strawberry jam. We went strawberry picking. We got some beautiful fresh strawberries here. So what you want to do is you want to take your strawberries and you want to get the hulls or the green part off. There's a couple different ways to do this. Some people, you know, they buy a special tool. I just take my paring knife and it's pretty simple. And the nice part about making this jam, you're going to mash the strawberries so you don't have to slice them or anything. You just can put them in, you want to measure them first. Then we're going to wash them and then we're going to get them into our pot. But you just cut out the hull just like that. So we need about 4 to 6 cups, somewhere in there. And then we're going to get them rinsed off and cleaned up. Okay, so we've mashed our berries. We're going to go ahead and put them in our pot here. And I think it was about 7 cups of whole berries that mashed down to 4 cups. You want 4 cups of mashed berries. So I'm going to get them in there, set that aside. Then what I'm going to do is we need to add a cup of unsweetened apple juice. We have pear juice that we can from our pear tree, so I'm just going to use that as unsweetened. Same thing. So I'm going to add a cup. I'm going to turn this on high so it gets to cooking here. There we go. Okay. Then what you're going to do is you're going to add your lemon juice. Now for this recipe, since it's a no sugar recipe, we're using the pectin for no or low sugar. Now if you use a universal pectin, you don't have to worry about that, but if you are going to do this recipe, since we're only adding a little bit of sugar, we're using one for no or low sugar. So to activate our pectin, you're going to want to add lemon juice. And this helps just work with the pectin, and it's also good to do preservatives. And you want to use bottled lemon juice so that the acidity is going to be constant throughout. So I'm going to do 2 tablespoons there. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to get this going until it gets just about to a boil. You don't want to get it to much more than that. Not a full roaring boil, but a boil, because then you're going to add your sugar and then you're going to bring it to a roaring boil. So we're just going to keep stirring so it doesn't burn. As you can see, it's boiling here. So we want to add our sugar, and then we want to add our pectin as well. So we got our sugar added. And don't worry if it's foaming, that's perfectly normal. One thing I wanted to mention is before you get everything started, you want to get your jars ready, your lids ready, your canner ready, and especially your canner, because when you put it on this burner, as you can see, it's quite big, so it's going to take a little bit of time to start boiling. So you want to do that first before you start going so that you have it ready to go when your jam is ready to go. So I'm just keep stirring this here. And you can skim the foam off the top, which I'll show you in just a minute. Alright, so you're going to let it boil. Once it comes to back to a full rolling boil, you want to let it boil for 3 minutes. And then you can turn the heat off. Okay, so it's been about 3 minutes, and as you can see, we've got a full roaring boil here. We got a little bit spitting out the sides. So we're just going to go ahead, keep stirring, and then I'm going to turn the stove off. And once this kind of gets down just a little bit, we're going to skim the foam off. But in the meantime, we're going to check our set. And this is done very simply. You just take a scoop of your jam and you set it in a bowl. And then you wait for it to cool a little bit. And then you can tell if your set's going to be good or not. So I'm just going to kind of keep stirring this right now just because it's still warm. I don't want it to burn or anything. And wait for to see if my jam is set. Okay, so we let it sit just for a few minutes, and as you can see, it's not moving. But another way you can tell is you just take your finger, and as you can see, it is filling back in. But if we let it cool just a little bit longer, I don't think it would. So I'm happy with that. With this at this time, I would kind of know if it wasn't setting. Some people do the spoon test. They take a spoon and they stick it in there, and then if it doesn't completely run off the back of the spoon, then they are satisfied with it. So it's really up to you what you want to do. If you want to, I might wait and check it in just a few minutes because it's not super cool. It's still kind of warm, and then see if I want to make any changes. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I gave it a few more minutes to cool, and as you can see, when I run my finger through, it doesn't fill back in. It leaves what's called like a snail trail. So now we know that our jam is going to be set up just fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my slotted spoon, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of skim the foam off the top. Sometimes you can get it to come off pretty easy. You know, there's nothing wrong with the foam. It's just people think it's unsightly. If you add a little butter or margarine to your jam, sometimes that helps reduce it. I don't want to, so I don't. Okay, so then you want to get your jam into the jars here. You need a 1/4 inch of headspace. So you use your headspace measure to measure that. A little bit more there. Okay, so I didn't show this, but it's important to, before you put your lid on, you want to make sure you go ahead and wipe your rim, because that will ensure that you have a good seal. If you have any food products stuck there, it might not seal correctly. Then you want to get your ring on, and you just want to finger tighten it. You don't want to over tighten it because that could prevent them from sealing also. So we actually ended up with six jars, which is what the recipe said. So that's good. I'm going to go ahead and get these other 2 in here, and they process for 10 minutes as long as the water is boiling. You want to make sure your water is boiling before you start your timer. Okay, so our timer has gone off, which means our jam is ready to go. So I'm going to just go ahead and get my lid off here. And you can lift the rack up, or you can just remove them without lifting the rack up. I'm just going to take them out like this. Unless I don't feel safe doing it, then I'll lift the rack up. Let's see, I think that's what I'll do. Okay. Well, maybe not. I'll be okay. All right, so when you do this, you want to just go ahead and transfer them directly to a towel or something that you have on your countertop. And you want to use, if it's a heavier jar or something, then you might want to put a hot pad underneath while you're transferring them, just in case you don't have a tight grip. Okay, so there's our 6 jars. You're going to let them sit for, you can let them sit for about 24 hours, 12 to 24 hours. And if you hear, you're going to hear the ping. Now if you check the lid, if it goes in and out after about 24 hours, then you can just put the jam in the fridge and eat it within a couple weeks. And I think most of them have sealed already. So there you have it. You make strawberry jam. It's pretty easy, pretty simple, straightforward, and it's quite delicious.
When it comes to snuffing out weeds in your walk paths, there's a number of different options, from grass clippings to straw to what we're going to use here is some burlap sacks that we got from our local coffee roaster. Now you might want to call around in your local area to find out, one, if you have a coffee roaster or if you have other availability where you can get burlap sacks, and also find out if you can get them for free. We called several roasters and some wanted to charge $1 a bag, which wasn't terrible, but others said come and take all you want. So we went with the free resource. So all we're going to do is, we've got the straw down and that's starting to break down, and there is some weeds that are trying to penetrate through the straw. So all we will do with the burlap sacks is just lay them on top. Now with the burlap sacks being laid up on top, you can put rocks down on the side, you can water them down, you also put grass clippings on top of them. They will break down over time, but the key is what you're doing is trying to snuff out and prevent a lot of the sunlight from getting to weeds in your walk path, so you have a nice clean walk path. Now based on the type of bag you might receive, some may be really thin, some may be really thick, some may even look like a rug, but this all works well for your walk paths to prevent weeds, so you can have more time for gardening than you do for weed pulling.
Another option for planting flowers in your garden is planting perennials, and perennials are flowers that come back year after year. Right here we have a peony, and this was a beautiful flower. They come in different colors, and this one will come back year after year, so that's an option for you. Maybe you don't want to plant flowers every year. You make a small investment to put the bulbs or the plants into the ground, and then they come back year after year. We're going to go look at some other perennials on the other side of the garden. Another controversial plant that you could have in your garden is milkweed. Now some people don't like them because they are somewhat invasive, but however they do attract beneficial insects to your garden, and they are a strong grower, just like most weeds. Something to think about, if you have them in your garden, you might want to leave them to attract the beneficial insects, but if you feel they're invading, then you might want to pull them out. Another great perennial for your garden that you could grow is roses. Now there's many different types of roses. There's a lot of different information on roses. We're definitely not rose experts. We just have them here in the front of the house. They just happen to grow, and they do require, just like many perennials, some maintenance, so that's something to consider as well. While you may not have to plant them year after year, you may have to maintain them. Roses are nice. They attract a lot of different insects, and they smell pretty too, and they look nice as well. So there's many different flowers that you can purchase for your garden, whether you purchase them and plant them once a year, or you buy them and they come up year after year. Something to think about when you plant flowers for your garden.
When it comes to planting on your porch, there's a bunch of different varieties of options that's available to you. You can have a container that sits directly on the porch, or if space is at a premium, you can get one of these devices. Now this is a rail planter. It is designed to set on a rail. This is designed for a 2x4. You can get them in, I believe, 2x6s and 2x8s, and a variety of different lengths as well. We happened to find this one day on junk day that somebody was throwing out. So it works really well for this particular application for us. Now they do make other ones if you have a metal railing that have hooks, so you just want to keep in mind of what kind of rail you have, and you can just go online and search for one of these, type in rail planters in one of your favorite search engines, and something of this nature will come up and you can kind of go filter it through there. What we're going to plant in this here is some herbs. Now we've got some parsley here that we've got started, as well as we've got some spearmint in there. We're just going to start, and we've got this filled with certified leaf compost from Sue's. We're just going to plant the parsley and the spearmint on this side. Now you do want to keep in mind that something like this may not be practical for deep-rooted vegetables like carrots, because you've got a certain amount of depth on each side, but then it's really thin in the center, so you want to keep that in mind. Get those out of the way. Put that in. Don't want to cover up the spearmint, but I do want to cover some of that up with some of that, which is all compost there. All right. Now on this side here, we are going to put some basil. They've got some lime basil and some Italian large leaf basil. And I'm just going to strike a few lines here, and as it comes up, we can definitely thin it out if need be, based on the germination of it. And I'm going to put in a little thicker. Now this here, with this planter, based on how stuff comes up and if you keep it watered, you could potentially bring this in during the colder portions of late fall and maybe get this plant to go in your kitchen window, and you're able to harvest fresh herbs through the winter months that way. In there, more is always better. Then we'll do some of this Italian large leaf basil. Now for a rail planter such as this, wouldn't recommend, like I said, large deep-rooted vegetables. Something like Swiss chard would be very practical. A tomato or pepper or something like that I don't think would be as practical or as beneficial as something in this nature. So we want to just keep it moist, keep it watered. One thing you do want to keep in mind is, again, this is a container. It's elevated. It's more air circulation than a traditional ground garden or a raised bed. So it is going to dry out much quicker based on the volume of soil you have in it. So you want to keep that in mind so you don't have dead herbs. Since it's outside your window or your door, you'll be able to remember to keep it watered. Thanks for watching. Join us again next time for more organic gardening and food preserving. I'm Joy Barrett, and this has been the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.